I want to talk this morning about God's gift to parents. God's gift to parents. Amen. As we continue in this month where we call Family Month, we're continuing to focus on the family. I want you to understand that I am aware of the difficulty of parenting. Those of us who have raised children, we know that it is not an easy job. Children will learn one day that you will reap what you sow. Everything that you did to your mom and daddy is going to happen again. So don't be naive when your children do certain things and think that they are any better than you were when you were a child. You sneaked out of the house, went places that you had no business going. What goes around, come around. You stole the money in the nightstand. Daddy was looking for it and thought that because he was old, he misplaced it. What goes around, come around. Raising children is quite a challenging task. When they are babies, it is difficult. But the bad news is that it does not get easier as they grow up. They move into what is called the stage of adolescence. Do y'all know what that is? Puberty sets in, and there is a chemical change in the mind, in the body. They are experiencing what I would like to call a metamorphosis from a baby or a child, and they are metamorphosing into an adult. And that's a very challenging time, not only for the child, but most especially for the parent. Some of you parents have experienced that. They're too young to have any sense and too old to whoop. Or spank, I should have said that, but when I was coming along, it was a whipping. And it felt like a whipping. So it's very difficult in raising children, but even with the fact that it is a very challenging assignment, please understand that even with all of that, to have a child is a gift from God. It's a gift from God. That little boy that gets on your nerves is still a gift from God. That little girl that gets on your nerves, she is a gift from God. Now, I'm preaching this message because I want us to change our view and perception of children. Don't look at a child as a curse. They are a gift. Don't ever look at a child as a punishment for something that we did wrong. A child is a gift from God. And I think that when you look at it in that light, then you can then appreciate what God has entrusted into your care. I said children are gifts from God. their gifts regardless to the circumstances surrounding their birth. What am I saying? They may have been born in wedlock or what we call out of wedlock, but regardless to the circumstances surrounding their birth, they are still gifts from God, and that does not indicate anything about the child because of the circumstance surrounding their birth. They had nothing to do with it. And they are just as much a gift. I wish I had one or two witnesses around here. From God, born out of wedlock as they are in wedlock. Now, prayerfully, we will endeavor to produce children in the parameter that has been set by God. And the parameter that's been set is in the bonds of holy matrimony. I'm never going to throw that out of the Bible because I did not put that in the Bible, and I do not have the authority to take it out of the Bible. That's God's design. And I ought to have some Christians here who still believe that even if I didn't do it the way God wanted me to do it, it is still right to do it God's way. We've got to get over this thing that because I can't reach the standard, I lower the standard. There are a whole lot of standards that I have not yet reached, but the standard got to stay up here. Even if I cannot reach the standard, it is still the standard. The church can't lower the standard. You can't lower the standard. I don't have the authority to lower God's standard. So in the bonds of holy matrimony, that's God's parameter for child producing and child raising. However, I understand that that's not the case for everybody. And since that is not the case for everybody, as a pastor, preacher, child of God, a lover of Jesus Christ, I have to realize that that's not for everybody, or that did not happen that way for everybody. And for that reason, I'm not here to beat up on anybody that didn't have it to happen that way. I'm trying to say what I'm trying to say. Because all of us have some areas. Talk to me, sanctified folk. Because some of you sanctified folk, holy folk, you want to look at somebody else. Well, that baby is born out of wedlock. Well, what did you do out of wedlock? You did the same stuff. Sperm and egg just didn't meet at that time. Either God blocked it or you did something to block it. I don't know. So I'm not going to get into a situation where I beat up on somebody because what they did is not what I did, because I'm doing what I'm doing that ain't right, and you've done what you've done that ain't right. So we temper the truth with grace. It's about grace. So I ain't here to beat up on nobody, but I am here to preach the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Even if the child was not produced in wedlock, it is still incumbent upon us to do our best. And I really would like to applaud those persons who had to raise them by yourself, and yet they turned out, they ain't in jail, they ain't in hell, they're in church, they're respectful. Yeah, they had some hiccups. Yes, they had some mess ups. We all did. But I applaud those persons who stepped up to the challenge to do what you had to do. Yeah, I messed up. Yeah, I didn't do it the way God said do it. But two wrongs ain't going to make a right. So I'm going to make it the best way I can. If I got to work 2 jobs and go to school, I'm going to do what I got to do, because I got a responsibility. Talk to me, church. I applaud them. But it is easier, as I shared with you last week, that it is always easier when it is done in the way and when children are raised in the way that God designed. And that is when a man and a woman are together in that house, walking together. As Amos 3:3 says, how can two walk together unless they agree on the direction? It is always easier to do it. Again, regardless of the situation, that child is a gift from God. All of you who have children, raise your hand. Whether they're grown or whether they're babies, whether they're babies, lift your hand, hold that hand up and say, thank God for my gift. That's a gift. And you've got to change your perception. Now, you may have a child in jail right now. He's still a gift. You may have a girl out on the street right now. She's still a gift. That's how God looks at them. And if God looks at them as gifts, how dare you? Because we love to discount people. We can be driving and we pull up to a stoplight and we see somebody homeless who has a sign, and we look at them as if they are less than. But that individual is still a gift from God. That's how he sees them. Now, you may look at me in a different light, and you may look at me as something less than. But God, I'm cool because God looks at me as somebody. Touch yourself and say, I'm somebody because that's how God sees me. Tell somebody, I'm somebody. That's how God sees me. Man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. We've got to change our perception of how we view our children and other children. I don't care what side of the track that child was born on. That's a gift. I'm trying to drive this home because I don't know if y'all getting it or not. You gotta say something to me to let me know you're getting it. Because they were born in the hood, the ghetto, the neighborhood, or wherever. That has nothing to do with how God sees that child. You could have been born to the Kennedy family, to the Rockefeller, the Obamas, or you could have been born to some gangster or some hoodlum. In God's sight, I wish I had 2, 3. You're just as precious as you are if you were born to a highfalutin or a family that's high in society. So we've got to change our perception of how we see children, because the only way we're going to change our perception of how we see ourselves, we're going to have to change our perception of how we see them, because some of us feel less than because of the situation surrounding our births. And we have an inferior complex that keeps us from going where God wants us to be. I feel like preaching that. You know, I've been feeling like coming to church all week. I don't know what's in me. I just feel good. See, I've got to see myself differently. My daddy taught us something as children that will never leave me until the day I die. He said that it is not where you're from that makes you somebody. It's where you're headed. And there are a whole lot of people in this room. We've got to change. Never look down at another child because their hair nappy, nose running, clothes are raggedy, and they came from a family that's not respected. Never do that. How dare anybody look at any gift from God in that light? Are y'all hearing what I'm saying? You don't get anything else I preach. You better realize that. And then when you can look at them in the light of God, you can then look at yourself. See, I know I'm special. And I ain't talking about that kind. I may be a little bit that kind from time to time. I don't know. I am who I am. But I know I'm special in God's sight. And once I came to the realization of who I am in Him, then I can appreciate myself. Now I can excel because I know who I am. Parenting is a serious job. It is significant because it affects the fabric of a society. To bring it closer to home, parenting plays a significant role in the fabric and the makeup of the church. Are you hearing what I'm saying? If we want strong societies, we got to have strong families, strong parents, strong children. If we want a strong church, we've got to have strong parents, strong families, strong children. I would venture to say, ladies and gentlemen, that parenting is the most important job that you can have. Are y'all hearing what I'm saying? Now, I'm a preacher. I would love to say that preaching is the most important job, but it's not. Parenting is, because it took a parent to raise the preacher. I wouldn't be what I am were it not for the things that my parents instilled into me as a preacher. It took parents to raise the president. Amen. I ain't going there. Jesus Christ had parents. Every successful individual had parents that sold into them and played a great part in their lives. Parenting is the most important job. Are y'all feeling me? It's the most important job, and it is our assignment to train up a child in the way that he should go. When he is old, he will not depart from it. Sometimes I believe, though, that too much pressure and responsibility is put on the church and the school and not the parent. People love to ask, where's the church? The church didn't have that baby. Where's the school? The school didn't have that baby. You had that baby. Your mama didn't have them. Your daddy didn't have them. Your family didn't have them. You had them. Now, we can assist you. I'm preaching good. And aid you, but ultimately it's your responsibility. That's your responsibility. We can assist you. The African proverb is correct. It does take a village. Now, although it's your responsibility, it is our responsibility not to hurt you as you're raising them. It is the responsibility of the school not to hurt you or harm you. Or when you're trying to raise yours, they shouldn't come to church and learn how to cuss and lie. They shouldn't go to school and get anything negative from the teacher. So it's not our job to raise them, but it is our job to assist you. But ultimately, it is the responsibility of the parent to raise those children. The problem with society, though, is that as important as parenting is, many of us take it too lightly. Are you hearing what I'm saying? People don't take parenting as serious as they should take it. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to make some of you mad. I don't care, though. It won't be the first time. I've been making folk mad for 27 years, and I ain't got tired yet. Some of us have babies as though we're having puppies. Have a litter, breastfeed them for 6 weeks, and then they're ready to go out on their own. Some men breed over here as if there are no consequences. Leave the baby over here, then go over there. You ain't got to say amen. If I can't say it in the church, where can I talk about it? Just baby over here, over there, over there, over there. Here, baby, every baby, everywhere. And then we say, well, I'm paying child support. But that ain't all to raising no child. I shared with you last week that little girl and that little boy need to see positive examples, first of all, in their mother and their father. Many of us struggle today because during the developmental time for us, we didn't get some of the stuff that we needed from dad and from mom. And I ought to have some witnesses in here who know that when you don't get some things you need in the developmental stage, that if you don't get, it will adversely impact your life forever unless you get a healing. Now, I do believe that God is a healer, and whatever happened to you or me in the past, he can heal. Somebody ought to lift your hand and thank him. But it's difficult when in the developmental. My daddy used to say, and that's why I love the old man. God, I miss him. He used to say, that the mind of a child is like cement when it is soft. When it's soft, you can put anything in it. You can take a penny, stick it in there. You can take a marble. You can take your finger and write your name. When cement is soft, but it doesn't stay soft. It doesn't stay soft. It hardens. And the problem is that when it hardens, what was put in, when it was soft, I'm preaching good, y'all. It is difficult. Now you can get it out, but you need a jackhammer. And that's why I preach the way I preach. I'm a jackhammer preacher. I'm on. It takes a jackhammer to get it out when it's in there. We gotta be careful what we let our children watch. You can watch some stuff that does not affect you because your mind is already hardened. But if that child, be honest, some issues that we struggle with today, trace them back to when we were in the developmental stage. I'm a jack. I believe I will. I'm glad he said hammer. I almost thought he said jack. Jack Hiney. I ain't cuss. Are y'all here? You got to protect. Boy, I got 18 minutes. I'm going to be through in 18 minutes, I promise. You got those babies you have in your hands and arms. Louis, you got to protect that girl. Kiara, you got to protect your baby. The devil and demons and dipsticks and devices are out there wanting to prey, not P-R-A-Y, P-R-E-Y, on your children. It is your job to protect them. So listen to me, young folk. You might have to stop going to parties now. You got a baby. You got a responsibility. You can't do any and everything now. You can't let everybody over your house. You have a responsibility. It's a serious job. It's a serious job. Raising a child is a serious job. Now, I got some parents here who know you had to deny yourself of so much. Do I have any witnesses around here? Because now I've got a responsibility. I can't hang out like I used to. I got to be there. I got to be there. Now, if you got a little help, you ought to be shouting. But if you ain't got no help, it's your responsibility. Let me move on, because y'all know how I'm passionate about this. I want to look at the text, because looking at this text, honestly, I love the landscape of this metaphor. Verse 3, and I'm going to read it from the New Living Translation of the Bible. Verse 3, children are a gift from God. Somebody say, thank God for my gift. They are a reward from him, not a curse. In the Bible, women pray to God for children. It's a blessing. It's the fruit of your womb and your loins. A gift from God. Verse 4, children born to a young man are like arrows in a warrior's hand. I'm going to explain that. Verse 5. How joyful is the man whose quiver is full of them. He will not be put to shame when he confronts his accusers at the city's gate. Now I'm going to explain this and I'm finished. This psalm is written by Solomon. I know normally when we read a psalm we say, well, that was David. No, this one is Solomon. And Solomon is obviously writing to his sons to give them instructions. In this particular psalm, he speaks in reference to the beauty of having children. Now, I want you to notice something. Most of you have the King James Version. The King James Version says that children are a heritage from the Lord. Dr. Albert Barnes, who is a 19th century American theologian, he contends that the text actually is suggesting, don't miss this, that children are an inheritance from God. An inheritance. That's profound. Because normally when we think of an inheritance, we think of something good, profitable, and beneficial. There are obviously now, according to this text, benefits from raising children. I do realize that sometimes it's hard to see it while you're raising them. It's hard to see it. Because some of you ain't got but one nerve left. And they about to get on you about to snap. Now don't snap. That's your inheritance. Now you can't see it right now. But now some of my older parents who have raised children and now they are grown and productive, you look back and say, oh. Now watch this. I'm going to get there. They are an inheritance from the Lord. There are benefits that you get from raising a child. They can become an asset to the kingdom and an asset to society. Now watch the text. Verse 4, it is in verse 4 where Solomon says that children born to a young man, now don't miss this because this is the good part of the text. Children that are born to a young man, watch this, are like arrows in the hand of a warrior. That's profound. Children born to parents are like arrows in the hand of a warrior. That's profound because it speaks of the fact that each child, in the process of time, will be a defense and support to the family as arrows are in the hand, you don't hear what I'm saying, of a warrior. I said you don't see it now. But when you raise them in the admonition of God, when you train them up in the way that they should go, when they are old, the word old in the Hebrew means mature. Here's the problem with that word though. Everybody don't mature at 18. I would suggest that children are not maturing as quickly as some of us did, because you can't get them to leave house now. When I was a child, I couldn't wait. Lord, when I get 18, I'm going to get out of this prison. There's a passage of scripture that talks about an eagle stirring a nest while the little eaglets are in the nest. It's comfortable, but he doesn't keep it comfortable. He pulls out some of the comfort and let the thorns come through because he don't want the eagles to stay in. Some of y'all got eagles still in the nest that's 30 because it's too comfortable. Too comfortable. Make it uncomfortable. My parents knew what they were doing to get us out the house. They wanted us gone. Daddy made no secret about that. I want you grown and gone. So I'm going to help you get grown and gone. I'm going to pull some comfort out of the nest. All right, you're grown. You can't stay here for free now. You gonna pay, and this was back, I'm almost 50 years old, so this was 30 plus years ago. You gonna pay in this house $40 a week. Now when you ain't making but $3.35 an hour, see, Mr. Bogle, you never made that little amount of money back then. You always been big baller shot caller, but me and Deacon Hope, you old enough to know when it was less than $3.35, ain't that right there? Dick said $1.49 was minimum wage, and he ain't that old. Some of y'all looking like, oh. When I got my first job, it was $3.35 an hour, and Daddy said $40 a week. He said, because you got to have somewhere to sleep. You got to eat. And then after you give me $40 to pay the bills every week, give your mama something if you eat and she cook. Because she ain't no maid. And don't go in my refrigerator and get nothing without permission. And I love fried bologna. But he could tell when one slice, he would count them. Now, I didn't know if he counted them or not, but he had to, or either he was psychic or something, or the spirit told him. So at 18, my sister Wendy and I, we said, well, if we got to pay $40 a week, that's 40 for you, 40 for me. We can go cross town and get a 2-bedroom apartment over there, ain't but $180 a month. And I can bring my girlfriend over sometime. And then Boo Jack will come over sometime. Robert, you whoop when you get home. And so that's what we did. But what he was doing, he was trying to develop some arrows. All right, I'm finished. Oh, I got 5 minutes. I ain't nowhere in the world I'm going to leave 5 minutes on the clock. Y'all didn't want it on the clock when the Cavs was playing the other night. You don't leave 5 on the clock. No, I want to see every minute. All right, but I am almost finished. Are y'all getting this? See, we raise them not to be dependent upon us forever. You have to start even with those little babies. The older they get, make it a little less. It help me, honey child. It works. You ain't no child gonna stay in that home forever, and unless it's comfortable. Well, I put him on the couch. That's still comfortable. Matter of fact, you can't sleep on my couch. That tears up my couch. You tearing up my stuff. And he got on flip-flops with some white socks on. And if it ain't white socks, feet ashy. Walking around, mama, ain't no milk in here. You didn't buy none? No. We ain't got nothing to eat in this house. Get a job. I ate at work. I don't need nothing. I'm full. And go lotion your feet. We make it too easy for them. We have to raise them up. Now watch the text and keep going. All right, I like, who said that? God bless you, I like you. See, somebody over here was looking at their watch. You said keep going. I'm going to look to this side. Now, no, seriously. So now, the text says that they are arrows. They are arrows in the hand of a warrior. Now listen, what this says is that when we raise children, because the text speaks about the enemy, let me tell you what it says. Let me tell you what this essentially means. It essentially says that we ought to raise our children up in a manner where they'll not only make a contribution to society, but they can withstand the enemy who is the devil. Now, a lot of godly folks say, I don't want no children because it's so bad now. Society is so bad, and I really don't want to bring no child into this society. But the ungodly folks still having babies. Now, what's going to happen to the society? What's going to happen to the society if the folk who know what the word says and who believe in raising them right don't want no babies because of that reason, but then the folk who don't know and don't care, so now we're filling up the society, whereas if your child is raised right, even in this society, you can still raise a child in the admonition of God. And now that child grows up to become an arrow to make an impact on that person who may not know the Lord. All that text is saying is when you raise them up in the admonition of God, in the way that God would have them to be, they can now make an impact on the world. And even those who don't know the Lord. I've got one quote and 1 minute, and I'm finished. Watch this. I want you to get this quote because this is good. John Whitehead says, and I quote, I don't miss it, children are the living messages we send to a time that we will not see. I'm going to say it again because I think I got about 50% where it sunk in. Children are the living messages that we will send to a time that we cannot see. What does that mean? It means that as we are raising children, please realize that how we raise them will be a living message to the future. Some of us ain't, listen, some of us, we're getting older. We're going to be gone. But our children that we raise are living messages that we send to a time that we cannot see. You can be dead, but the fruit of your labor. My daddy is dead and gone on to be with the Lord. But look at the impact. I got to close. Give me. Look at the impact of what he did and how it has blessed. I have been blessed to preach to thousands of people and hundreds of thousands across the country. He was raising an arrow. He's gone, but how how he trained us. Look at you, I got some arrows in here. You ought to thank God for your parents and how they raised you up. But wait a minute. If you are an arrow, don't drop the ball when it comes to raising your children. Y'all stand, I'm through. Touch somebody and tell them we got to raise up some arrows. We got to raise them up. Got to raise them. I want to be dead and gone. Dead and gone. Sleeping in my resting place. Somewhere with the Lord. But know that the life I lived and what I entrusted even into my children, even though they're grown, still entrusting things, that the impact will forever live. They are messages that we send to a time that we'll never see. Those of you who dedicated your babies this morning, and over here as well, raise your hand again over here, all right. And over here, raise your hand. Dedicate, you're raising arrows. Raise that girl. You'll be going on to be with the Lord one day. But raise her to be and make an impact. We've got some arrows in here. We got some doctors. We got some teachers. We got some lawyers. We got some nurses. We've got some police officers. We got arrows. We got some praying warriors in here. They are arrows. Raise that baby. It's going to be work. It's going to be work. They pretty, and it looks easier when it's somebody else's baby. Ooh, they so cute. But oh, when you get your own, they boo-boo. They wake up in the middle of the night, and you done worked all day, 2 in the morning. It ain't easy. But they are gifts. If you look at them in a different light, and you understand the essentiality and the significance of your assignment, then you can do a better job. Join hands. Let me